Hello YouTube, back once again with my film reviews, and a few days ago I was given the unique opportunity by my school WPI to see a sneak preview of the new biopic Steve Jobs, and finally talking about it because I've been busy. But anyway, here we are with Steve Jobs. Now Steve Jobs, it's a biopic about Steve Jobs, and it takes place during the about 30 minutes before his presentations for three of his bigger moments. The first being his presentation for the first Macintosh computer. The second being for his computer next, and the final being the presentation for the iMac. And so it's like the 30 minutes before those presentations and all the stuff that happens in between. So let's get into it. Let's get into the good of this movie. Well, number one, Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs. He is wonderful as Steve Jobs. He's just so great at switching on like the dime from being like really charming to being a complete bastard. Like you can really see like this just like conniving like businessman who like would become such a powerful businessman, having a very like even no matter how long it takes, I'm going to get it my way in the end. I will make sure in the end I get it my way. And considering some of the things Steve Jobs did to get things his way, you can definitely see that. And I also love the fact that it always looked like Michael Fassbender always portrayed, he was always someone who was looking towards the future and looking for like new ideas. Like it's funny, like at the end of the movie they hint at like the future of like the with the iPods and iPhones. Like there's a funny line when he just says to someone, like he just says, "What the problem was, gave them a styluses, and you took away these five styluses." And like then he says to someone else, like, I'm gonna make it that you can hold 500 songs in your pocket instead of walking around that disgusting Walkman. I thought that was pretty funny. So see, Michael Fassbender, I really hope he's wonderful. Really hope he gets nominated for an Oscar for his performance. He did a fantastic job. There's great supporting work from Kate Winslet, Seth Rogen. He's not distracting. Don't worry. Jeff Daniels, Catherine Watterson, I hope I'm saying that right, and Michael Stolberg, I hope I'm saying that right too. Not much to say besides the fact they all just played their parts very well. None of them, they all just did a good job acting. Like Seth Rogen was very impressive. It was nice to see fat curly-haired Seth Rogen again. It's been a while since we see that. I miss Seth Rogen looking that way. Yeah, but Seth Rogen, he did a really good job. Wasn't the least bit distracting. All those supporting cast did great. All very fun to watch, and all did a great job. So that was great. And one of the things I like most about this movie was it went into the aspects of Steve Jobs and that most people do not know about, or they're just some interesting thoughts to put in your head about Steve Jobs. Well, first one like that most people forget is the fact they do bring up the first Macintosh was a failure. Like it did financially terrible. Like it was a bomb, the first Macintosh, not the first Apple computer, first Macintosh computer. And because most people just think like the Mac was just like it came and like it just conquered it became one of the biggest computers out there, but it didn't. The first one was a failure, and I love the fact that the film brings attention to that. I also love the fact it brought up attention because this was another huge part of the plot, was the fact he had Steve Jobs really messed up relationship with his first daughter, Lisa Fassbender. Just the fact that just with such things like the fact that he keeps denying that he's her father. They bring up things like how even after he was got a paternity test and it said just 94% chance that you're this kid's father. He says he came up with his own algorithm and even said this in an interview that was in a Time magazine. The kid's mother this kid's father could be 28% of the country's male population, and basically just calling the kid's mother kind of just basically a slut to a certain degree. And it is very effective, the fact just showing how just messed up that is. That they even also bring up the thing I like the most that they brought is the fact that how the Macintosh original operating system it was called the Lisa, and even when there's this adorable 5-year-old girl saying, "Oh, did you name that after me?" He was like, "No, I named it, I forgot it's something." And then even though he has said, he did say in the later he did say, no, I clearly named the operating system after her. So it's the fact that like like I said, it does fit in the whole idea that he was like such a conniving businessman, like almost feeling like he just did not, even though he was fully aware this was his kid, because he kept wiring her mother money, and kept wiring her money so he could get this kid a better life. He just basically was just like, no, because this kid just doesn't fit into my current business plan at the moment. So I thought that was fantastic. That was a great part of the plot that most people don't, and something most people don't know about Steve Jobs. That the fact they go into the fact he was fired from Apple for a while. Most people, a lot of people I type out, completely forget about that. He was fired. He was booted out of the company he created for quite some time. He co-founded for quite some time, and that the fact his next computer, the computer he made after he left Apple, or was fired from Apple, is the fact that it basically it does bring to light he did want this thing he knew this thing was going to fail, but he basically just created something about it. So he was basically scamming his way back into Apple, and I just find that is just once again just shows what a conniving businessman this guy Steve Jobs actually was. And finally, I also love the fact that, as Seth Rogen says, Seth Rogen plays Steve Wozniak. He says, like, I am the person who designed and built the Apple Apple Macintosh computer for you. So why does everyone call you a genius? And most people don't know my name. And it is an interesting thought. Like, Seth Rogen basically just says it himself. Like, what have you done, Steve Jobs, except for basically just like screw people over and like basically like connive and cheat? Like, what have you done? Like, so all of these were all such interesting aspects to this man's life that most people don't know about and are just really interesting thoughts. So that's the thing about biopic. Like, does it make the subject material interesting? And this movie certainly did. It was a very interesting movie. And I love the framing device. Very unique framing device. I've never seen this before in a biopic. Because usually it's the fact that's like the 30 minutes before the presentation for the first Macintosh, the next computer, and then the iMac. Because usually with a biopic, it's either like the person's life story, or it's about a very like the single event they're remembered for. But like this though, like they only reference any event that takes place between each presentation. Like they'll just say like, oh, that happened, like, and if you know things about stuff about Steve Jobs and his relationship with Apple, like, or his daughter, and his ex-girlfriend, his daughter's mother, you would just like, they'll reference these things that happened in between the events, but they never actually show them. It's just these people talking about them. There's only like 2 flashback scenes, with one is when it's a quick scene with Michael Fassbender and Seth Rogen as they're in the original garage where Apple was started out of, like, for designing the first computer. That and Michael Fassbender with Jeff Daniels as he's convincing Jeff Daniels to become like one of the CEOs of Apple with him. And once again, it showed what a great businessman Steve Jobs was. Just the fact that he sounded just so interesting and was very charming in this scene. Like, showed like how great Michael Fassbender was in this movie. And so I really did like that. It's the fact that you just have to listen to this happening. Like, and I also love the fact that it never actually shows the presentations. Like, you'll just see the audience starting to applaud as Steve Jobs comes out, and then it will just cut. It will cut to news stories that happened, the aftermath after the presentation and after these products started to come out, but it never shows it. Like, there's never the actors acting it out, and I like that, for one, because really what would be the point of doing the presentation, because you would have to basically do it word by word, since there's video documentation of how it happened word by word. And two, it would have I felt like it would have started making the movie feeling like a giant Apple commercial. So glad they didn't do that. And so I thought this was a really unique and really great framing device for this movie. So Great job there. And the cinematography for this movie was great. There was some really good shots. I love the first shot when it was basically it was supposed to be it was supposed to be Michael Fassbender, Kate Winslet, I forget the third person, just like staring at the projector screen, and then just like and like basically just the camera there, just their three faces like right up at the camera, just like continuously acting. I thought that was a great. Those were some great shots. That and there's a great aspect for the film that the um images are edited to look like crappier as like you go further back in time to make it look like like how films look back then, like the camera did, like how cameras did, like how they were older and less high definition. So that was really nice and really interesting. Thought that really actually did add to the movie, so that was great. So yeah, so acting was great, plotting was great, framing device was great, cinematography was great. What was my issues with this movie? One, this happens. I will give this credit though. I felt the framing device somewhat saved this from being worse at it, but the dialogue could get pretty manipulative at times. There were some definitely manipulative scenes, mainly with Kate Winslet at near the end of the movie when she has to deliver a line about what it means making something, and I'm like, oh god, I highly doubt this was said. And I felt bad. Kate Winslet tried to make it seem as natural as possible, but it was really weird dialogue. So there was that. There was things in the movie like when like people were talking about things and like they would like be saying like word term of speech and then like the words would like appear on the wall behind them. I was like, yeah, that's a nice that looks nice, but I feel like this is in the wrong movie. Like it just doesn't feel like it fits with this movie. It feels kind of odd when those things pop up. So there's that, and that the film could get pretty repetitive at times because like I said, it only takes place before three presentations, and it can get repetitive. You're like, okay, first it's on to Kate Winslet, then he's like yelling with Seth Rogen, then he's like having an issues with his daughter, then he's yelling with Jeff Daniels. Like it can feel like you're starting to watch the same scene over and over again, but they're different enough that it doesn't get too bad. Like, but there were a few points I was like, did I just watch the scene? Like, so there was that, and so those are my major issues with this movie. And so for a pro rating for this movie, this is a great biopic, by the way. I would have probably given this movie an 8 out of 10. I thought I loved it. It was great, but when you go to script and acting and all that. But the thing that I think did push this film further for me was the framing device, because it was a very clever and unique one. So that's why I am going to give Steve Jobs a very solid 4.5 out of 5. Fantastic biopic. If you like biopics, if you want to know more about Steve Jobs, go see this. YouTube, as always, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.